Let's talk about this existing cabling. This is called, well, today they call it Romex cabling. I don't know what they called it back in the old days, because there should be a ground wire coming out of here too. And see, there's only a black wire and a white wire in this sheathing. Now, this piece is pretty long. It's probably 5 or 6 feet long, but am I going to use this? No, I'm not going to use this. I could use it for little pigtails and just for a white wire. If I needed one little white wire 1.5 feet long, I could cut this, strip it, whatever. Or for a black wire, I could save it for that. But I'm not going to use this to run any cabling because it doesn't have a ground wire attached. No. And incidentally, like I said, this house was built 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, and all the boxes in the house were metal. And if you've been watching my channel, I showed you how to ground, how I thought you could properly ground an electrical outlet, a 2-prong electrical outlet to a 3-prong electrical outlet, and how you could do that. And some people were questioning that, and I'm now confirming that this particular house, there's a ground wire, a bare copper wire that they attached to all the metal boxes. They installed metal boxes. Back in the old days, they only had metal boxes, so they installed all the light fixture boxes, all the light switch boxes, the electrical outlet wall boxes with metal boxes, and then they would take a long cable, a bare copper wire, and they would attach it to the studs and the ceiling joists and all that, and then tie it to each copper or each metal box, okay? And then they would run that copper ground directly back to the electrical panel. Now, if you got a question about that, if you've got electrical outlet boxes that are metal, and if you go up and if you find out that your existing light switch or your light fixture boxes are metal, you could crawl up in the attic, reach around, feel through the insulation, whatever, and see if there's a ground bare copper wire going to that box. Now, this one was right down next to the sheetrock ceiling, so you got to fish down through your insulation and feel it. And on this particular house, it is there. So I've got to make sure that when I install, if I install anything up there in the attic at this point, I have to tie it to that ground, okay? But your house might be different. Every house is slightly different in the old days. Sometimes they ran that copper wire, sometimes they didn't. So check it out. So now that I'm back down from the attic, there's a couple more things I did. I loosened up the wires, and I've got an idea of where and how I'm going to hook up the main wire to all these light fixtures. And right through this area, there's blow-in insulation. I crawled in there, and I moved it away from that area because that's just about where the next light fixture is going to go. My cut-in box, so I moved the insulation away. And then over here, I moved the insulation away over here. And then from this one, I'm going to go about 16 inches over, and I'm going to put another one just beyond that right there. Yeah. Okay, so I got that all situated, and I'm going to have to go back to the store and get a junction box for my power to tie it back in up there in the ceiling. And you know what? That's just the first of many times. That's probably the second or third time I've been up in the attic. And when you're doing remodeling stuff, just count on having to go up there a few times. I'll probably have to go up there at least one more time, maybe even twice. But at this point, am I going to do any more work right now?
No.
Heck no, it's time for lunch. Does anybody want to go to lunch?
Yes.
Where are we going to go?
Taco
Bell. Let's go to Taco Bell. That'll give me a little break. I can get some fresh air and just catch my bearings a little bit. Think about what's in store for me this afternoon. At this point, I would transfer those marks up on the ceiling, cut in my new light fixtures, and install them in the sheetrock ceiling. But I've got to get back up in the attic, and I've got to make up some junction boxes, and I'm toying with the idea of showing you what I'm going to do up there, which brings me to this hole up here in the ceiling. I'm glad I still have that. I'm going to use that as a pass-through still. I'm going to put my light up there through that hole, and my extension cord, and my additional parts, my wiring, and somehow I got to get my camera up there and crawl over there and get all set up so you can see what I'm going to do. Because at that point, then I'm going to come back down, patch some holes out here, cut some holes, and install the can lights. One step at a time. You can do it.